Wilmington, in my neighborhood. But we're hurting.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got a hell of a story to talk about involving Hunter Biden, who thought he was going to pull up to court today and walk in and accept his plea deal that he has negotiated with the DOJ that clearly, okay, is being influenced by the Biden administration, right? He thought that he was going to get this sweetheart deal when it comes to 2 misdemeanor charges related to his tax crimes, okay, in which, you know, he avoided paying millions of dollars in taxes to the government that he owes, okay, typically a crime that would send somebody to prison, and also involving a diversionary agreement on gun-related felony charges because he illegally possessed a weapon while under the influence of drugs, and he should probably go to jail for that as well too. But again, he negotiated a sweetheart deal with federal prosecutors that basically would have him go into a diversionary program to avoid jail time. Now, again, he thought that he was going to walk into court and avoid going to jail. However, that's not the case because a Trump-appointed judge said, slow your roll, hold up, we got some issues here in regards to this plea deal.
Yeah, Harris, I can confirm that this plea deal may be falling apart before our eyes. You know, I've been here reporting outside. Our producer, Jake Gibson, is inside. There's no electronics. There's no cameras. And finally, I said, look, it's been over an hour and a half. Let's see what's going on. I just left the courtroom seconds ago. They're in recess at the moment. Here's what's transpired. The Judge Noriega basically began by asking questions about the plea deal itself, about whether or not the pleading guilty to 2 tax misdemeanors could be tied to the diversion part, which is avoiding charges, which is a felony on the gun charge. And there was disagreement in that. But the major headline that's transpired in this courtroom that is likely going to be what we're talking about for the rest of the day is Judge Noriega asked the prosecution if there was an ongoing existing separate investigation into Hunter Biden right now. The prosecutor saying yes. And what was holding this deal up, and they're in recess now because the defense asked for some time, so the judge granted. What's up in the air is whether or not Judge Noriega will even accept this deal, because this deal would possibly give Hunter some immunity to future charges, and she's not okay with that.
Yeah, so apparently there was some miscommunication between federal prosecutors and Hunter Biden's legal team that resulted in them arguing in court, okay? Arguing out loud. Apparently it got real heated because Biden and his legal team thought that, first and foremost, the gun charge and the tax misdemeanor were basically connected, okay? That one would depend on the other one. However, that's not the case. And also, the judge ended up questioning whether or not the diversionary agreement actually shielded Hunter Biden from future prosecution under other laws, including the Foreign Agent Registration Act, in which, you know, the federal prosecutors initially refused to specify exactly what other investigations was Hunter Biden under, but did confirm that he was under investigation for other things before the judge pressed him on Biden's business dealings in Ukraine and China while Joe Biden was vice president, and specifically asked, hey, are you guys investigating him for violating the Foreign Agent Registration Act, which again would be, you know, Hunter Biden failing to register properly, okay, while doing these business dealings, which could be a felony depending on the nature of the violation. Okay, if it's a felony, it can carry up to 5 years in prison. If it's a misdemeanor, then it could be, you know, 6 months. Okay, he should go to prison for that, right? And prosecutors at that point said, yeah, there's an ongoing investigation, okay? And Biden's legal team didn't like that, okay? They were pissed off because they thought that they would be immune, okay, if they agreed to this plea deal, right? They thought they would be immune. However, that's not the case. And not to mention, the judge also had another issue with the constitutionality of the gun deal, okay? Because the judge felt like the gun deal would put her in a position where the courts had to decide whether or not Hunter Biden had breached that deal, which she felt like will put her in the uncomfortable position of having to decide whether or not Hunter Biden would face charges for breaching this deal, which, you know, is not the job of the judicial branch. That's actually the job of the executive branch to bring charges against people. And again, she has problems with that. She's saying that, look, the constitutionality of this plea agreement is questionable. So essentially, she wants more time to figure out what the hell is going on, okay? Because the Bidens and the prosecution, they basically came back and renegotiated a plea deal that had a more narrow scope, okay, after initially basically rejecting it, okay, both sides saying, hey, we don't agree with this. Again, they, you know, resolved their differences or whatever, came back with a new plea agreement, and the judge said, you know what, I'm uncomfortable with this, right? Which ultimately led to Hunter Biden pleading not guilty, okay, at least for now, until they revisit this at a later date. And again, the hilarious part is while all of this stuff is going down, okay, CNN is having an absolute meltdown over this plea deal falling apart.
Someone made a bad mistake here. Am I wrong looking at this, saying that these someone, whether it be Hunter Biden's defense or prosecutors here,
how could there be such a big miscommunication?
I cannot even begin to explain how the Justice Department walks into that courtroom without knowing exactly what the scope of immunity or coverage is for Hunter Biden. And equally, I cannot even begin to understand how Hunter Biden's lawyers walk him into that courthouse without knowing exactly what the constraints, what the limitations of that deal are here. What happened here today is remarkably rare and, frankly, sort of astonishing that the parties would go into court on a matter of this degree of importance without a full agreement in place. And as Kara just said, the problem was not with what Hunter Biden had agreed to plead guilty to. There was no question about that. They agreed he'd plead guilty to the 2 tax misdemeanors and then have the gun charge diverted or essentially thrown out if he complied. The problem was the parties did not see eye to eye. They did not have an agreement about what else beyond that Hunter Biden was covered for. I cannot even begin to explain how the parties did not have that locked in place before they headed into court, but they didn't, and that's why the judge rejected it.
So she gave them 30 days. What happens next, Ellie?
So one of two things. Either they reach an actual agreement as to the entire scope of this plea deal, in which case the judge seems likely to approve it, as often happens in the normal course. And if not, then this could head to trial. And when I say head to trial, I mean the tax charges. I also mean that gun charge, which could carry jail time, plus potentially all of that other pending material that the judge alluded to today. So there's a lot of risk for Hunter Biden here if they don't get a deal done. Yeah, so definitely not how the Bidens expected today to go. Okay, I mean, this is probably a worst case scenario, a disaster scenario for the Bidens and federal prosecutors, thanks to this Trump appointed judge who rightfully questioned the constitutionality of this plea agreement and also the scope of it in the sense that, hey, what else is being covered here? What else are you giving the Bidens or Hunter Biden immunity to? What about this potential FARA charge, right? Because, again, this guy basically should have registered as a foreign agent, okay? And the DOJ was not necessarily trying to be forthcoming in regards to whether or not this deal covered that, okay? However, Hunter Biden's team was basically operating as if that is what the deal covered, that he would get out of this scotch-free. Now, I want to play a clip of Kash Patel and Benny Johnson discussing what happened here, because I think that they can go into much better detail in regards to what all of this kind of means and what it shows in regards to the relationship between the DOJ and the Bidens, and again, how they're trying to get Hunter off here in the sneakiest and sleaziest way possible. Take a look.
Okay, so look, I've been a federal public defender. I've been a national security prosecutor. I've been on both sides of the aisle, literally in federal court before tons of federal judges. And a federal judge has the authority not to enter into plea negotiations. And what this judge did, rightfully so, was question the DOJ if there are other criminal conduct related to the plea agreement. She's allowed to do that, or he. And I was not stunned by DOJ's answers, but the specificity that she went to FARA tells me she knew in the discovery process of this case that that issue had come up. And if that issue was going to be legally precluded from being prosecuted in the future, she as the jurist has the responsibility to demand that answer from the DOJ. And it looks like Hunter Biden's lawyers thought that the FARA registration, which they can't get a deferral on, which he has to go to federal prison on, which is a felony, they thought they had negotiated their way out of it. And it looks as if they just canned the plea agreement because having been over there on the defense side, you quietly know when you've lost, and they lost on the FARA point is my first reaction, which to me tells me the DOJ tried to bury the FARA conviction.
Wow. Can you please explain this acronym FARA and what this may mean if they decided, if I'm hearing you correctly, that they are going to push forward with prosecution for Foreign Agent Registration Act? Yeah,
exactly. So FARA, Foreign Agent Registration Act, very simply means if you're a U.S. citizen, you can work for whoever you want. But if you work for another country in Europe, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, wherever, and you lobby the U.S. government, Congress, White House, whatever, be like, oh, I got, this amazing company who wants to do a deal in the United States. You can do it. You get paid billions of dollars to do it. But the law just says you have to register. You have to put the government on notice, and it doesn't cost you anything. It just says file a piece of paper. It's literally like one page. And it just says, here, I'm registered. You, DOJ, are aware of it. Track it all you want. That's it. If you fail to register and you lobby a foreign government, say you go to the Ukrainians, say you go to the Chinese, and you say, my daddy is going to get you all the private equity deals you want, or my daddy's going to get you a federal prosecutor fired in your home country, then we'll get you the $1 billion. He never registered to do those representative works on behalf of those countries in America. And just look what happened to Paul, Trump's former one of his campaign managers.
Yep.
Manafort. He failed to register as a FAR agent. Now, look, DOJ has had an awful track record of prosecuting these people because so many people in government leave and do this conduct and they don't register, which I don't know why. I think they're just trying to be shady, like Hunter Biden. And now this judge is like, so we're just going to decide what laws to not prosecute. I mean, it's pretty keen. It's pretty savvy. Look, the reality is the deal could come back. It's dead for now. And prosecutors have a premonition of going in there and being like, it's our way or the highway. But we all know who they work for: Merrick Garland, Christopher Wray, Daddy, Joe Biden. So they could go back and loop in a FARA plea agreement, but I'm not sure that's going to work in this case, given this explosive rejection by both sides saying the plea deal's off.
Yeah, so basically in a nutshell, the sweetheart plea agreement / plea deal is off for now, okay? Thanks to the Trump judge, who again rightfully questioned the constitutionality of it and whether or not Hunter was basically going to have a non-prosecution clause for future charges and offenses related to his foreign business deals, okay? And yeah, Hunter Biden and prosecutors need to go back and figure out, okay, how to structure the deal in a way that the judge is going to accept. Now, ultimately, if the judge still rejects the deal, then this could be headed to trial, in which, Hunter Biden could face some prison time, okay, if it comes down to that, right? So again, worst case scenario, the Hunter Biden thing will continue. The mainstream level media, CNN, MSNBC, they're going to continue to melt down over this and pretend like there's nothing here when there's clearly a whole lot of stuff going on here that needs to be covered. But again, just so you guys understand, Hunter Biden pleading not guilty for now. Okay, they're going to work on a new plea agreement between him and the Department of Justice, his legal team and the Department of Justice. The judge, in 30 days or so is going to figure out whether or not that is good enough for her to accept. And if not, then again, it could head to trial. And again, Hunter Biden could end up in prison if, found guilty, okay, of these charges. So until then, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.